Good afternoon. I'm Christina Todd.
And I'm Andrew Benoit with the Fair Weather News.
Today, cigarette smoking on campus. How does it affect UVM students? A look at the resources UVM offers its students and the challenges that arise.
And we'll take a glimpse at student-community relations. Can't we all just get along?
Clouds of cigarette smoke are flowing into dormitories and academic buildings alike all over the UVM campus. This is a serious health problem for both students and faculty. Here's Joe Cleary with a special report on smoking on campus.
Thanks, Christina. I'm here at G-Mans Hall on the University of Vermont campus, where there's a controversy brewing over where students should stand outside while they smoke. I talked with two separate people, and here are their stories.
Do you smoke cigarettes?
No, I don't smoke cigarettes.
Have you ever smoked cigarettes?
I did while I was in China.
Do you smoke cigarettes?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay, how many cigarettes would you say you smoke each day?
Probably like a pack.
See, do you feel that the smokers outside, which are directly outside your window, do you feel like they're affecting your living conditions?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think that, what you're doing and how close you're standing to the building, do you think that causes any inconvenience or any health issues for the residents, mainly on the second and third floors right above where you guys are standing, where people stand out there to smoke?
Not really.
How are they affecting your living conditions?
Well, the smoke, when you open the door, it gets drafted into the room, suffocating.
About how far do you think you stand away from the building when you're smoking your cigarettes, just on average?
Not really far at all.
Do you feel like the smokers are just too close to the building? The distance is not safe or healthy?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, they're way too close. Okay. Way too close. They're right up against
it. Prior to this interview, were you familiar with the University of Vermont state law, the University of Vermont law, and the state law that requires either you be 20 feet away from the building or a quote-unquote reasonable amount? Were you familiar with that law?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the Vermont law, but I'm assuming that UVM's policy on being 20 feet away from any edge of the building or any wall of the building is similar.
Do you feel that most smokers are familiar with that law?
Yeah, generally I would say so. People just don't really care, I don't think.
Although there were contradictions between both Chase and Hank, when asked about who was responsible for enforcing the University of Vermont policy, they were both in agreement.
I think again, you can take that both ways, but I think that it falls onto the students.
I mean, it's kind of a law that's hard to enforce, but I guess if you could make students care enough to stand 20 feet away, they would.
Reporting for Fair Weather News, I'm Joe Cleary.
Thank you, Joe. Hopefully more awareness will be raised over this serious issue.
As the semester ends and the flowers bloom, UVM students are out enjoying that nice weather that lasts into the night. But as temperatures rise, so could tension between students and neighbors. Here's Christina with a report.
Despite UVM's attempts to eliminate potential issues surrounding the relationship between students and neighbors, this may be a difficult bridge to get.
As warm weather approaches, an annual spring noise prevention and enforcement effort has begun and will continue through the rest of the semester, according to an email sent out to UVM students. Leona Goebel has been a resident of Bradley Street for the last 16 years.
Bradley Street is a street that a lot of the college people use to walk home at night, and they become very vocal and loud, and of course at that time, if it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they're not thinking that there are other people that have to go to work or go to school the next day.
Many students and neighbors feel disconnected from each other, since new students move in each year and some move from semester to semester.
It's not really a neighborhood, and because so many people come and go.
In an attempt to strengthen the relationship and bridge the gap, there is a group at UVM known as the Community Coalition. The program is housed in the Student Community Relations Office on Colchester Avenue and is composed of members of UVM and the larger Burlington community. Gail Champnoise, the Student Academic Services Manager at UVM, and Alicia Turner, the Student Service Professional, head the program. The coalition often hears about what they call the quality of life stuff: noise, public urination, and walk-by vandalism in the neighborhoods.
I mean, like the bigger vision is how do we get past those issues and really get students engaging in the communities where they live. So getting to know their neighbors, feeling like they're a part of the community and invested in the neighborhoods where they live.
Some of the initiatives the Coalition has taken to raise awareness are the distribution of the Survival Guide to Off-Campus Living, offering off-campus living workshops, and Have a Heart. But will things improve?
You know, a lot of it is the timeless quality of it. Like, college kids are college kids and will be college kids as long as they are college kids, which is forever.
As the university's population continues to grow, the issues surrounding relations between college students and the larger Burlington community could expand.
You know, it's funny how it's all like a snowball effect, you know, because more kids in the dorms means 2 years later there's more kids downtown, and more kids downtown means more apartments, and more apartments means more people, means more cars, means less parking, means more parking lots, means less trees, means so.
It may be difficult to find common ground between two differing lifestyles, but we'll see what the spring has in store for us. Thanks, Andrew, and back to you.
Thank you, Christina. It looks as though students and their neighbors still have a long way to go, though.
Many UVM students struggle with various disabilities. The Access Center provides services and resources to those with physical and mental disabilities. They work to improve students' accessibility in academics. Here to further speak with us is Erica Mark with Assistant Director Marcia Camp of the Access Program on campus.
Here at the Access Center, located at L&L at UVM, we interviewed Marcia Camp, Assistant Director, and asked her what the Access Center was all about. How long have you been with the Access Center?
I arrived here just in August, so I've been here just less than a year. So this is my second semester.
Oh, great.
Newcomer to campus.
I have been in the Access program since the middle of my sophomore year. So almost a year, a little over a year now.
What programs do you offer as far as help programs?
The Access office has 3 parts. The first part are a group of learning specialists, and when students come, they're assigned to a learning specialist, and that is the person who works with them to create their 504 accommodation plan. Some students use extra time for test taking, for example. We have an exam proctoring center so that students can go there and they can either take, they can have either double time or time and a half for exams, depending on how they worked it out with a specialist.
My accommodations are note-taking, testing at a proctoring center, and I get time and a half on tests. That's a new one, and that's a test, and if it's still not long enough, we're going to work on getting more time.
Some students require a quiet place that's very private and has no other noise. Some students just need the extra time, and they can be in a place where there are other people as long as it's not tumultuous, you know. And then the third part of our office is the Adaptive Technology Lab. And we recently moved that from Living Learning over to the library. So it's on the 2nd floor of Bailey Howe Library. And there, it's run by Nick Ogrizovich, and we have text to speech software, speech to text software. We have Braille. We have a lot of other adaptive kinds of equipment for students.
Who is eligible to get the help from the Access Center?
Students who can use our services are students who have a documented disability. Here at the university, we generally have 5 categories of disability. We have students who have learning disabilities, so language processing disorders, dyslexia, math processing disorders, those kinds of things. We have students with developmental disorders, and those would include Asperger's syndrome, different on the autism spectrum, attention deficit disorder. We have another category which is students with sensory impairments. So we have students on campus who are deaf, who are hard of hearing, and students who have varying levels of visual impairment. Then we have students with chronic illnesses, and they usually, the kinds of accommodations that students with chronic illnesses require are different than those with learning disabilities. So for instance, it might be that they need a single room because they're taking medications or they have to give injections. So we work with Res Life in those instances. And then there's another group who receive services through us, and those are basically people with mobility impairments or wheelchair users. Chair users is the correct name for that. That's what they like to be referred to as.
Okay. What benefits do you offer?
Well, the whole point of an accommodation plan under 504 is to level the playing field. That's really what it's about. So an analogy is, because many people believe that if you give someone extra time on a test, or you reduce coursework, or you give them a scribe, that what you're doing is you're lightening the load to such a point that they're not doing the work themselves. Or so the way to think about an accommodation that I find useful is that my glasses are an accommodation for me, and if I have them on, then I can see as well as you or someone else who can see with glasses or not. You and I probably right now, even though you're wearing glasses, have pretty close to what we both see in the same thing. Mm-hmm. With those people who will say, oh, well, accommodations, that's unfair, they're just getting an easy break. What you want to think about is that in a classroom, if I made everyone use my glasses, would that help them? No. There's a few people who might have a similar thing and they'd be able to get by. There's a bunch of people who it would disable. And so that's really a good analogy, I think, for what the reason for having an accommodation is. That's how it levels the playing field.
And how's your experience been with the Access program?
It's been really, really good and really beneficial. And there's a serious change in my academics as a result of it.
Okay. I'm Erica Mock, coming from the Access Center. Back to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Marcia, for your dedications to the Access Center.
On cold and snowy days, waiting for bus rides around campus is a popular mode of transportation for students. Few expect to be driven past. However, for one disabled student at UVM, this has been a shocking reality. Ashley Fowler brings us this story.
With shuttle services to all 4 University of Vermont campuses, the University Transportation and Parking Services shuttles students from one location to the other on a regular basis. However, for some students, it has been more of a struggle than that. Today we're going to tell the story of Grace Cameron, a student who has been snubbed by the bus system one too many times.
On campus, definitely the transportation services have not been great. I've said this before, but UVM does a lot of good things, and transportation is not one of them, especially for people who have temporary disabilities, like I do with mine.
This university doesn't have good physical accessibility.
We've worked really hard on physical accessibility issues with the construction process that we've had underway.
Not all the ramps, we were told, work on the buses to help get wheelchairs, for example, up and down, and oftentimes it takes more time for someone who is disabled or temporarily disabled to get on and off, and bus drivers are driving by because it would slow them down on their route. And we just learned about this and we're following up.
Yeah, I've had a few instances where the bus drivers have not stopped to pick me up or stopped and not allowed me to get on the bus. The first time was awful. Really terrible, traumatizing almost. It was, the bus was full and I stood there and it was just like, you're really not gonna let me on this bus? Are you serious? And then didn't even open the door. It happened again and again. So that happened 3 times, and it got to a point where I knocked on the door and made sure to let me on. and usually the students are great, and do you need me to get up, which I really appreciate.
I know we've had some incidents with different types of drivers having different issues. When we have a full bus, it's extremely difficult to figure out what to do when you're driving. The policy is to ask people if they can make room.
Well, there have been a few that I've told my story to, and they're kind of appalled about it. Another one told me that the students are nice to me and let me stand up for me because they think that I'm cute, which I didn't appreciate, but
there isn't any alternative. So in other campuses that I've worked, there has been alternative transportation for people who are disabled permanently or temporarily. So there would be, for example, vans that you could get on an on-call basis, or golf carts that you could get on an on-call basis, so you wouldn't have to stand out in the cold or the rain. And also it resolves the problem of slowing the flow of the buses down.
The lack of any services for people with temporary disabilities is really too bad. I guess I know a bunch of other schools who have services where if you're on crutches, if you have something that happens to you, there's a number that you can call, and there's a shuttle that will pick you up from wherever you are, bring you to wherever you are.
We are hilly, we're snowy, and those things are challenges, but I think we could do a lot better.
It's almost common courtesy to allow someone who's on crutches to get on a bus. And I think that bus drivers should do as much as they can to allow that to happen. I understand that they can't force anyone to get up, but they can certainly ask. And in that situation, people most of the time listen to them.
For Fair Weather News, I'm Ashley Fowler. Back to you.
Thank you, Ashley. Perhaps the recent warm weather will cut down on this overcrowdedness of our buses.
After the completion of another men's basketball season, many students acknowledge the difficulty of being a student athlete. However, the experience of one player shows that even at a higher level.
After a college basketball season in which substance abuse issues led to the dismissal of Boston College forwards Sean Williams and Gonzaga forwards Josh Hatevelt and Theo Davis, you may be looking for a college basketball player to emerge as a role model. Look no further than the Patron Gymnasium in Burlington, Vermont. At any given time, you'll most likely find that role model, junior forward Timothy McCrory.
I really, Sean Williams and Highfield, I think his name was, from Gonzaga, you can easily get in trouble because you're in the spotlight all the time. He's a college basketball player. That's pretty much the only thing, the big thing in this town is basketball and hockey, so you're always in the public eye.
Tim has always been very dedicated to his schoolwork. From what I know,